Okay, let me explain myself. I don't necessarily hate turn-based games, they've just never really clicked with me. I can respect the depth, the strategy, the way some of these systems are built like puzzles you learn to master. I get why people love them. But I've always struggled with one thing: immersion. Every time I sit down with a turn-based game, whether it's menu-based combat like Pokemon or Persona, or tactical RPGs like Baldur's Gate and Divinity Original Sin, I feel that invisible wall go up. The pace slows, the world fades a little, and suddenly I'm not in the experience anymore. I'm managing it, waiting, selecting, watching. And that's frustrating because I know what I'm missing. Some of the most beloved games ever made live in this space, and I've tried, genuinely tried to meet them halfway. I've downloaded them, started them, restarted them, even forced myself through hours thinking maybe it'll click this time. But it never really did. Until I realized something. I didn't need to magically become a turn-based person. I needed a game so good it could carry me through my bias. A game with a story strong enough to pull me forward, even when the combat normally pushes me away. And somehow, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 did exactly that. Now, before I proceed, there will be full story spoilers for Clair Obscur Expedition 33 from this point onwards, so please, if you haven't played it yet, I urge you to do so before watching this video. My first experience with Clair Obscur actually goes back to its release. Back then, before the egregious price hikes, thanks Microsoft, I still had Xbox Game Pass. And Clair Obscur had just landed there, immediately surrounded by this wave of praise, not from one corner of the internet either, everywhere. Different outlets, different creators, different communities, all saying the same thing: this game is special. The funny part is I hadn't been following it at all. I missed the marketing, I missed the build-up. To me, it was just another name in a release calendar, until the applause got too loud to ignore. So I did what I always do when a game looks like it might be a trap for my tastes. I opened Google and asked the most important question: is Clair Obscur turn-based? And there it was, the answer that usually ends the conversation before it even starts. Now, yes, I know I'm generalizing, I'm psyching myself out, I'm writing off entire games based on one label, but in my head, that label always meant the same thing: I won't connect with this. Still, the praise was so unanimous that I thought, okay, maybe this one is different. So I downloaded it on PC and fired it up. And for a while, it worked. I was drawn in, I made it to the point where the expedition truly begins, where Renoir, still basically an unknown presence at the time, shows up and destroys your entire party. It's sudden, brutal, and it lands like a warning. You're not ready for what this world is. I pushed a little further and then I stopped. Not because the game was bad, actually quite the opposite. I could feel it. The narrative was mysterious in the best way, like it was hiding something just out of reach. The characters weren't just well written, they were performed with this confidence that made them instantly believable.
Take you for a coward.
I'm not a coward.
You swore the oath. When one falls, we continue.
Yes, I know.
When one falls. When one falls. Not if. When.
And the art direction, it didn't look like anything I'd ever played before. It had this identity, this texture, like the world itself was painted with intent. I knew there was something special here, but the turn-based combat still sat between me and the experience like that same invisible wall. So I walked away. Now fast forward to the Game Awards, and Clair Obscur wasn't just showing up, it was dominating.
Clair Obscur, Expedition 33!
Sweeping categories, outpacing games that, in my mind, should have had it buried. And the more it won, the more I dug my heels in. Because I didn't get it. How does a turn-based game inspire this level of devotion? How does it win almost everything it touches, break records in the process, and somehow feel like the entire industry collectively decided, yes, this is the one? So I did what a lot of people do when they don't understand something. I shrugged it off as hype, I bought into the memes, online hate, not because I truly believed it, but because it was easier than admitting I just didn't understand what everyone else was seeing. And then the orchestra came out. And suddenly, another part of the game revealed itself, like it had been waiting patiently in the shadows: the music. And for me, music isn't a bonus. It's not background, it's not nice to have, it's the thing that turns a story from something you watch into something you feel. Some of my favorite cinematic experiences are inseparable from their soundtracks. Cornfield Chase in Interstellar, the entire Tron Legacy score by Daft Punk, and of course, the Witcher 3 soundtrack. Those soundtracks don't just accompany a story, they elevate it. They hit the exact emotional frequency the scene is trying to reach, and suddenly what's on screen becomes personal. A perfect example of this is the scene in The Witcher 3, where Geralt and Ciri reunite on the Isle of Mists. You watch a shattered Geralt standing over what looks like his adopted daughter's lifeless body, moving toward her like he's afraid the world will break if he gets too close. And then the music starts to rise, slow and careful, building into this aching melody right as Ciri wakes up. The flashback hits, taking you back to her as a child, lost in the woods, and suddenly the whole moment becomes more than a reunion. It becomes a release, its heartbreak turning into relief, carried almost entirely by that score. And sitting there, listening to those tracks from Clair Obscur, it clicked. I wasn't resisting the game because it wasn't for me, I was resisting it because I was afraid it would prove me wrong. So I said, screw it, I need to experience this properly. So I bought it. And this time, I didn't stop. Before I go any further, I want to be clear. I don't think this game is perfect. I don't really believe in anything being flawless. Everything has cracks, and honestly, sometimes those imperfections become part of the charm, as long as they're not game-breaking.
Please! I'm too young!
And in this case, they aren't. Most of my issues with Clair Obscur don't come from the combat, they come from the extra activities layered on top of it. And by extra activities, I mean the platforming. Oh god, the platforming. There are optional sections where the game suddenly asks you to hop between ledges and platforms, and it just doesn't feel like the world was built for that kind of movement. The jumps aren't precise, the spacing can be awkward, and worse, if you leap from certain distances, you trigger this automatic roll animation that constantly sends you sliding right off the edge of whatever you just landed on. Anytime the game pivoted into platforming, it pulled me out of the experience. There were moments when I genuinely just left, did something else, and came back later when I had the patience to deal with it. Combat for me wasn't perfect either, but it was absolutely engaging. Once I understood the rhythm of parries and dodges, and once I started using each character's unique skills in sync, I found myself enjoying it way more than I expected. My one real gripe is that after you get comfortable with timing, the game starts introducing enemies that either fake you out or obscure their audio/visual cues to spike the difficulty. Sometimes it felt less like a fair test of mastery and more like the game trying to catch you out, but even then, it never crossed into broken. The game gives you tools, real counterplay to deal with those enemies, and I should say, I played on Expedition of difficulty, so yeah, it was a challenge, especially for someone who usually avoids this genre, but it was the right kind of challenge. The kind that keeps me locked in, learning, adjusting, and pushing forward. And overall, I enjoyed the combat far more than I thought I would. A big part of that is the roster, with multiple characters each with their own abilities and identity. It's not just about learning them individually, it's about learning how they work together, how one character sets something up and another cashes it in. Then you add systems like Pictos and Luminous, and suddenly you're not just playing battles, you're shaping builds, tweaking stats, creating synergy, adapting to the kinds of enemies you're about to face. So yeah, on a mechanical level, my experience was largely great. It was fun, it was engaging. But where Expedition 33 truly shines isn't just in how it plays, it's in its characters, its storytelling, its art direction, and of course, its music. These days, it feels like we're drowning in content. Games, shows, films, endless releases, endless experiences, and so many of them carry the same hollow feeling, a generic story stitched onto a product designed to sell. Over the last 5 years especially, it started to feel like narrative has become an afterthought, something packaged alongside the gameplay slapped with a $70 price tag and shipped out the door. But with Clair Obscur, it feels like the opposite happened. It feels like the entire experience was built around its story, beautiful, tragic, and quietly devastating. Like every system, every environment, every moment exists to serve that emotional call. In Act 1, I constantly found myself stopping just to take in the world. The environments aren't just pretty, They feel loaded, like they're holding secrets, and the story keeps placing questions in your hands like weights you can't put down. Who is the paintress? What is the gomage, and what is it really for? Why is she painting each year like a countdown? And why does it end with people dying? Those weren't just mysteries to me, they became obsessions I needed to understand. And he starts immediately with Renoir, this old man on the beach who shows up and wipes your entire team like it's nothing. That moment hit me like a warning shot, because he raises a question that feels impossible to ignore. How is this man old? In a world where no one survives past the number the paintress paints, why is he the exception? It's like the game is telling you right away that there's something deeper underneath the surface. And Act 1 feeds you just enough to keep you hungry. Little fragments, tiny revelations, just enough to keep your curiosity burning without ever letting it cool. And then that scene happens.
Rock. It's more about...
Gustav.
Gustav, who I genuinely believed was the main character, the one driven to destroy the paintress, to save everyone back in Lumiere, dies at Renoir's hands, saving Maëlle. I didn't believe it at first. I kept waiting for the reversal, the twist, the he's not really gone moment. Because how could he be? We'd already learned his skill set, we'd spent time with him, we'd connected with him emotionally. The game had made him feel essential, and then it doesn't take it back. Instead, Verso arrives, an unknown character, and suddenly the game has you control of him. And I remember thinking, wow, they really just did that? So now I'm left with a new set of questions, sharper and even more personal. Who is Verso? Why does he seem to know the man who killed Gustav? And why is he joining the party, after everything that just happened? At that point, I wasn't just curious anymore, I was locked in. This is where the game stopped asking for my attention and started taking it. Act 2 kicks off by introducing a new set of characters, and honestly, it's where the game's personality really starts to bloom. And as we move deeper into Act 2, the game starts peeling back layers. Layers that Verso himself has been keeping from us. The old man isn't just some mysterious threat, he's Verso's father.
Sorry we're late. We were busy doing a bit of reading. Were you planning on sharing that this man, the man who murdered our team, is your father?
Family is not my favorite topic.
And that revelation doesn't answer questions so much as it creates new ones. Because now the story isn't just strange, it's personal, it's family, it's grief, and it's something older than the expedition. Then there are the figures that begin to appear, like ghosts from a truth the game has been hiding. Alicia, who looks uncannily like Maëlle, except her face is burned, hidden behind a mask. And the curator, who travels with you back at camp, ostensibly just the mechanical role, the guy who just upgrades your gear and stats, but clearly carrying something he's not saying. The further you go, the more it becomes obvious. This world has issues, and someone has been lying about them. Act 2 builds towards a reveal that reframes everything. The paintress is not some abstract myth. She's Aline de Sandre, Verso's mother. Renoir is Verso's father, and Maëlle is actually Alicia, Verso's sister. But how does any of this make any sense? Well, the truth is we haven't been in the real world at all. We've been inside a canvas this entire time. The world we've been fighting for, the people we've met, the entire reality of Lumiere, it's painted, brought to life by a family with the power to create worlds so vivid they become a kind of living truth. But if this world is painted, why is it so broken? Well, because the real Verso is dead. And unable to survive that loss, Aline painted a version of her son, an echo of him, and retreated into that canvas to live with him. She abandoned her real body, she chose the painted world over the real one, because in the real one, her child is gone. Knowing that, Renoir entered the canvas to rescue his wife. And that's where the fracture begins. Because Aline refuses to leave, she resists, and that resistance splinters the canvas, triggering the phenomenon the people of Lumiere call the gomage. But here's the twist that hit me the hardest. Aline, the paintress, was never the one causing the gomage. She was painting warnings, a countdown, not an execution, a way to give the people of Lumiere time to live what remains, to prepare, and to hold on to something before the end. The one actually erasing the canvas is Renoir, and Aline, growing weaker every year, is using the last of her strength to keep what's left of the world from collapsing. So why does the Renoir we know seem to protect her? Well, because that Renoir isn't real. He's painted just like Verso. And Aline made them immortal inside this world. The real Renoir is the curator, the man who traveled with you, helped you, upgraded your weapons, and guided you toward the destruction of the Paintress the whole time. And Verso, Painted Verso, goes against the Renoir we've been fighting because he believes saving his mother matters more than preserving the only world he's ever known. Which is what makes his choice so brutal and so human. Because saving Aline means risking everything else, his friends, his home, his reality. And for a moment, it feels like we win. We destroy the Paintress, we save the people of Lumiere. Or at least we think we do. But the second Aline falls, the real Renoir is free to act and he wipes the painted world away in an instant, killing everyone. Lumiere, Ciel, Lune, all of it. And yet, the canvas still remains. Verso's. Then the game pulls back even further and we finally see Alicia, long before all of this, before the expedition, before the fracture, before the painted world became a prison. We meet Claire, Verso's other sister, and we learn the truth about the real world. There's a war between writers and painters, and during this conflict, disaster strikes. There's a fire. Alicia is attacked. Verso sacrifices himself to save her, and in doing so, Alicia's face is burned. The reason for the mask. The reason she looks like a scarred reflection of Maëlle. This is where Aline's grief begins. This is the moment she breaks. Alicia survives, but she lives in guilt, haunted by the idea that her brother died because of her. She drifts through life half present, like she's already mourning a world she doesn't know how to return to. Claire gives her a mission. Enter the canvas, bring back their mother and father, but Alicia gets lost in the chroma. When she finally enters the canvas, she isn't herself anymore. She's reborn into the canvas as Maëlle.
She's a girl. She's a girl.
Oh, my darling girl. We have precious little time together. You'll never know us. But I want you to know that you are loved. I want you to know you're not alone.
She lives 16 painted years. She becomes the person we've come to know. And when the truth catches up, those memories don't replace each other, they merge. Now she's both Maëlle and Alicia, carrying two lives inside one soul. And that leads us into the final act. Because Maëlle, now awakened as a paintress, can bring people back. As long as their chroma still holds strong, she brings back Ciel, Lune, and the final mission becomes clear. Destroy the real Renoir, expel him from the canvas, and restore what was lost. And this time, it isn't just about saving the world. It's about deciding whether a painted life is any less real, when it's the only life these people have ever known. And this is the moment Clair Obscur stops feeling like an expedition story and starts feeling like something else entirely. Aline didn't paint a world because she wanted to play God. She painted it because the real world took her own son, and she could not accept that. Because the twist isn't just we were in a canvas. It's not a lore bomb for the sake of being clever. It's a reframe. Suddenly the question isn't, can we stop the paintress? It's, what does it mean to live in a world that was painted out of grief? And once you understand that, you realize the real conflict was never about saving a city. It was about saving a family from a love so powerful, it became a prison. And at this point, there's really only one last cinematic explosion left, because now the goal is simple, brutal, even in its simplicity. We have to face the real Renoir, and try to bring back the people we lost. The friends who died, because this war between husband and wife was never really about power, it was about grief. Two people trying to love the same family in completely opposite ways. We reach Renoir, and the final fight plays less like a boss battle, and more like an emotional collision. And what makes it hit is that Renoir isn't a monster. He's not evil. He's a father doing the only thing he thinks he can to save what's left of his real family. He's grieving too, but unlike Aline, he's still standing in the real world, watching it rot while the people he loves fade deeper into a painted dream. He knows what it means if they stay. He knows he might have to grieve his wife and his daughter while they're still alive. And when you finally defeat him, the aftermath isn't triumphant, it's quiet, it's resignation. It's a father reaching the point where anger runs out and only acceptance remains.
Keep the light on for you. I hope you find peace.
Acceptance not because he wants to accept it, but because there's nothing left to fight. Because the truth is, Alicia in the real world is a shadow, a shell. But in the canvas, she has a life, she has friends, she has love, she has a world that, painted or not, feels real in every way that matters to her. And with that, Renoir is gone. But the game isn't finished with you. Because then, Verso turns to you, almost pleading, and asks you to do something that feels unthinkable. Help him destroy the canvas. And again, the reasons aren't selfish. If anything, they are the most selfless thing anyone asks for in the entire story. Verso doesn't want to live as an echo, as a painted version of someone who died. How can he keep going knowing the real versions of his mother and sister are wasting away, prisoners to their grief? How can he allow that? Grief in this story isn't just sadness, it's a drug. It keeps you warm while it kills you. And suddenly the game gives you the choice that defines everything. Help Mael save the canvas, or help Verso destroy it. Now, I'm not exaggerating when I say I stared at this screen for a full 15 minutes, because on one hand, saving the canvas means saving the people you've come to know and love, the ones you fought beside, the ones you mourn. It means preserving Verso's world, the last piece of his soul. But on the other hand, saving the canvas also means condemning Alicia to a life built on avoidance, a world that isn't real, a choice that eventually kills her real self, because the real world doesn't pause while you hide from it. And in that moment, I chose to save the canvas, and I regretted it. So I loaded my previous save, and I saw the other part, Verso's ending. And after experiencing both, that's the one that stayed with me, because Verso's ending doesn't feel like victory. It feels like a funeral that finally allows people to move on. It reunites the DeSandre family in the real world, not in a perfect way, not in a painless way, but in a way that makes healing possible. It forces the truth to exist. It breaks the addiction. And that's what makes the ending of Clair Obscur hit so hard. There is no clean good or evil, no heroic choice that fixes everything without cost. It's a story about loss, about grief, about the damage it does, not just to the people who suffer, but to the people who love them. A genuinely heartfelt, devastating story, and one I know I'm going to remember for a very, very long time. So if you were to ask me now why I love Clair Obscur Expedition 33, the answer isn't because it made me like turn-based combat. What it did was more surprising. It made me care enough that the combat stopped being a barrier and started being part of the language of the story. The parries, the timing, the pressure. It didn't pull me out of the world, it pulled me deeper into it. And every system, every character, every piece of music felt like it was built to carry the same emotional weight. Because Clair Obscur isn't just a game about expedition. It's a story about grief, about what it turns us into, about the worlds we build to avoid it, and the people we hurt when we refuse to let go. And then he has the courage to end in the only way a story like that can, not with a clean win, but with a choice. And that's why I finally understand the love this game gets. Not because it's flawless, not because it's perfect, but because it's honest, because it's beautiful, because it trusts you to sit with something painful without giving you an easy answer. But if there's a game out there that can make someone like me, someone who usually bounces off this genre, finish it, think about it, and miss it when it's over, then yeah, this one deserves every bit of praise it got.
Dans le dessin.